Yo, what's good everybody? My name is BadKlaat and this is a breakdown of my track Automatic, which came out on my Blunt Force EP on Black Label a couple of weeks ago. And if you're not familiar with how it sounds, it goes a little something like this.
I don't fuck around, Dunny. I keep it automatic. Automatic. Keep it automatic. It's most real. I keep it automatic. Keep it. I don't fuck around, Dunny. It's most real. I keep it.
Yeah, so you get the idea. So I guess we'll just start out with the drums as they're the first thing in the project. And basically, before I even started this track, I kind of knew that I wanted to go for a halftime vibe followed by the same drop but with D&B drums. I kind of knew that I wanted to do that before I started, so I purposely went and chose. I got these from Splice, I believe. Yeah, these are just literally a Splice kick and snare. And I purposely went and chose some drums that were like quite short and snappy that I knew that would fit with the halftime section and also the D&B section. I didn't want to go and choose some big kind of some big like rhythm drums with long tails on, which would be too big to fit into the D&B section. So short snappy drums here, very simple. All I've done is a little bit of EQ and a tiny bit of compression on the kick, and with the snare, just a bit of EQ, some saturation, reverb, which is now off. I guess I tried to use it at one point, and just a bit of stereo, just to widen up the snare a little bit. I've put the high pass filter to basically 2K though, so anything above 2000 hertz is being widened on the snare, but like the main body of the snare, everything below 2K is still very much mono. So we still feel like the drums are nice and centered like D&B drums should be. You just get that little extra layer on the sides. I'll actually use this Stereo Touch plugin quite a lot, especially on claps and vocals. It's even good on. So yeah, really nice short snappy drums. Nice minimal processing. I just want to keep them clean and punchy. I don't need any crazy limiting or crazy compression going on. On the actual group itself, I've got a little washout thing. This is just like a filter for taking out the lows towards the breakdowns and stuff. A little bit of saturation, a little bit of compression. This EQ here, I would have added at the very, very end when mixing, when like mastering the song. I probably felt like the whole drum bus could have just done with a few dBs of extra high end. We've got a Pro L, we've got a limiter, and I'm frequency shifting after the limiter and then compressing. Yeah. So without the frequency shifter, I don't know why I didn't just pitch these drums down. This is a weird choice actually. So you can hear without the frequency shifter, they're just like a semitone or two higher than they were. Yeah, I guess for that instance, it's rare that I'll do that, but I guess it was working there. They're nice short punchy drums anyway, so that worked well. And that's it for the kick and snare. And then obviously later on in the pattern it switches up. Then we've got the hats, which again are pretty simple, probably even less processing than the kick and snare actually. We've got just this open ride, open hat, sorry, and then the closed hat. They're just giving some groove, and obviously a crash. Can't go wrong with a crash. And then for drums, that's really it. They're just nice and clean, and nice and present. So then let's get on to the effects. Now, the effects I'll usually fill up in a song. The effects group I'll usually fill up quite considerably. There'll always be something happening, whether it's like a little white noise, impact, looping. There'll always be something happening. So let's have a look here. If I remember rightly, the whole song actually started from this thing here. It looks very weird. This is what happened, right? I was on Splice and I was just like using the down arrow to look through sounds, and there were these two sounds, kind of one then the other beneath it. The first one was this one. Let's go to a part where it's a little bit louder. Right, so the first one was this, and the second one was this. They're very similar, obviously. But I remember I was like pressing up and down on the keys, like dee 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 dee, and I kind of was doing that pattern, and that's, I'm not even joking, sparked the entire idea for this song. So I was doing this with the keys in Splice, with the arrow keys, and I was like, do you know what? I grabbed those two samples. I don't think they were that pitch originally though. I'm pretty sure I messed around with them a lot, but I just started with that. The whole thing started with that. And then, so once I had this little loop thing going, I just started to add impacts and risers, you know, pretty standard stuff really. More risers. Shout out to Vengeance. I've been using their stuff for absolutely years. Still doing me good. Some more rising stuff. So let's just solo the whole effects group and the drums so far. And then throughout the entire intro, I think I have the mids pattern. Yeah, so the main mids pattern is kind of repeating, but with I think it's like low pass, high pass. Sorry. Where are we? Is it this here? Yeah, I think this EQ, this one here. Yeah, right. So for the intro, I've automated this EQ to be on. So we're only letting these frequencies of the mids through. And that just kind of like, you can really subtly hear them, and it just gives you a kind of idea of the groove before the track starts. So when it does drop, you already kind of subconsciously have an idea of how it sounds, if that makes sense. Oh yeah, we've got the vocal looping as well, but we'll get to that in a minute. Let's just solo these effects one more time. So these mids are literally just cuts from a sound design session I did recently. I think here maybe, right, not even recently, I did this in August. So they're not new anymore. So like, I'll just make a bunch of sounds like this. These are actually in Bruise Up as well. Yeah, that's like the first bass from Bruise Up. Bum 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 bum. So yeah, I'll just make sounds like this, little like kind of one shots, and then cut them up and take little parts from them. So this is just a tiny little cut from that sound there, and obviously EQ'd and so on and so forth. So basically all of the mids, I think pretty much everything in this track. I didn't do any sound design in this project, I'm pretty sure. Maybe just this Reese here. Yeah, I think this Reese was like pretty much the only sound design I did in this project. Everything else everything else is just audio from another sound design session. So enough talking about that. The mids are playing throughout the intro, but high passed, just so you can hear them. And then I have this vocal looping. This vocal is from, so it's an acapella to this song. Back on the Block, Pete Rock. And I just took some cuts from it and I made them work. That stuttering sound you can hear is the kilohertz ring mod. I've got that slowly pitching up in frequency as the intro kind of progresses, and you just get this just rising fill all the way throughout. Like, even though the vocal's looping right from the start of the intro, it kind of doesn't get boring because it's constantly evolving. Thanks to this ring mod. And then I have reverb start to fade in as well. I don't fuck around, Dunny. I keep it automatic. So the whole phrase, I don't fuck around, Dunny, I keep it and automatic, is all just different parts of the acapella that I put together. I think originally, like at the end of the song, he says, I keep it thorough. I don't fuck around, Dunny. It's most real. I keep it thorough. Keep it thorough. That's how it went originally. I keep it thorough. Keep it thorough. In fact, that's actually a completely different acapella. I've just realised to this. Keep it thorough. I don't fuck around, Dunny. I keep it automatic. I've actually just realised now. It didn't occur to me before that the I don't fuck around. The I don't fuck around is actually a completely different acapella to the word automatic. Automatic. I didn't even realise that before. Just too busy cutting everything up. So then, oh yeah, and so for the sub, we've literally just got a standard sine wave. So for my sub, I'll just have a serum. My sub will literally just be a serum with a sine wave, no effects. This distortion's not even turned on, so literally no effects in serum whatsoever. Just a clean sine wave. I'll boost the master output so I'm just as loud as I can be without going above 0, you know, without going into the red. You don't want to be clipping out of serum if you can help it. And then I'll just throw like a saturator onto that with, that's actually quite a lot of drive here. I'd usually go for about 3 or 4 decibels. There you go, I was playing it 2 octaves too low. But there we go. And then underneath that, I've literally just got a duplicated version of the sub, like just a cloned version, but I've put an erosion on it and then high passed all of the lower frequencies out. So you're just left with this, just that distorted layer there. So them together, you just get this nice crunchy sub. So I guess we can let it drop for a second. Fuck around, Dunny. I keep it automatic. Automatic. Keep it automatic. It's most real. I keep it. So yeah, mids are all, like I said for the intro, pretty much the same thing. It's just like snips of sound design that I had done previously, and I was just yeah, just dropping things in and taking cuts and kind of just placing things around where I could and trying to make a nice groove. So like here for the I took, I think it was, I don't actually know, but I took like a piece of this. It's like a piece of the start. Yeah, it literally is a piece of the start. But like faded. Ah, yeah, you can see here. So it is just the oh, come on, open up. It's that sound repeated, but I've just faded it right in, so you only get the first little click. Just to give that little groove, and then throughout there's just little glitchy things dotted around. Oh yeah, and like a layer for this was this thing here, which on its own sounds like a weird choice of sound to use, but I just felt like it really just kind of filled up the space behind the main sound to the point where it doesn't sound like this when they play together. But if you look on the EQ spectrum, you can see that it actually, oh no, I'm looking at the wrong thing. You can see that it has a really nice, balanced, kind of smooth response throughout the frequency spectrum. All the way from like 100 and just upwards, like nice and balanced. So I thought, yeah, that would fill out behind this. If you're wearing headphones, or you've got like, if you're listening to this quite like decently loud, you'll notice that. It literally just gives it a little bit of extra kind of weight. And then we've got a big reverb swell in here for the gap, and then these other little glitchy parts play. And these are this is literally just one thing. What's that called? Quick stab 2. So as a part of that, I guess it's just like the very end. Yeah, just like from this part here. Just a tiny bit of EQ. I like doing this because I find that doing sound design in sessions gets a little bit confusing. If you've got your mids group and you're kind of trying to write your song, but you've got all of your channels with 5 OTTs on and all of this automation and all of these crazy effects, I find things just get a little bit confusing. I've really found recently in the last maybe 2 or so years, because I remember back, if anyone watching this is familiar with any of my older stuff, like Knuckle Sandwich and Romper Stomper, those were all, okay, you're probably going to say, oh yeah, they're decent, but those were all done with MIDI and done, like the sound design done in the sessions. Which is okay, I got a good result, but I just, now looking back, realised that it was actually a little bit more work to get them to sound the way they did. And I found that since using just audio, the projects are a lot cleaner. You generally find that once you've bounced out your sound and you've done things like make sure that it is at 0, make sure that it is nice and loud and it does contain kind of, if you look at this on a spectrum, if you look here, how do I get rid of the lines? I forgot. But you can see that it literally, right from the very bottom, is very smooth all the way up. It's just like, so a sound like this is perfect. You can just take from anywhere you need in here. Like, from anywhere that you need audio. If you just wanted this area, for example, that's going to be a perfect kind of low layer to go somewhere. If you just wanted the high part, whoops. Do you know what I mean? It's consistent. There's a whole lot of sound right throughout the spectrum, and it's all balanced. So what I'm trying to get at is, once you've done that, once you've made sure your sounds sound that way, you'll find that when you're writing a song, you can literally just drop them into your project, cut them up a little bit, move them around, and they just fit. You might need to do a tiny bit of EQ like this. Like in this case, I needed to take just a tiny bit of 100 hertz away, 130 something hertz, just because it was a little bit muddy. Oh, I'm back in the intro again, aren't I? Yeah. No? Yeah? No? Am I in the intro? Nope. Automatic. I was in the breakdown. Don't even know my own song. So yeah, we've just got a bunch of automation lanes. So like the reverb from the main riff swells in, and then these kind of glitches carry the groove on. And again, just a bunch of other weird stuff. Just noise, textures, whatever you want to call it. And then the supporting layer for the mids. Again, listening to that on its own, it sounds like a weird choice of layer, but I feel like it really does work behind here. And you probably didn't even realize it was there until I just soloed it. So along with the sub, oh yeah, and obviously the Reese. I've got this little Reese thing that comes in every now and then, and that is just a serum with two saw waves slightly detuned against each other, and then a pitch bend. That's it. I think no, it's the same one all the way through. Okay. So, and yeah, with the mids, like with the effects, the thing from the intro, which I said sparked the whole idea, is actually looping through the whole drop. Pretty quietly. I probably can't hear that even. It's just very low, but I feel like it does add to the mix. And then again, for the break and the build, it starts to come back in again. And then for parts of the D&B section, it goes into an even different plays a different note and is even louder. And yeah, these impacts are literally just looping throughout the whole song. Oh yeah, I've got this effect on the first kick as well, of every couple of bars, and then yeah, just literally rises throughout, just pulling you into different sections and helping the track move along. So you've got really short rises to pull between kind of 4-bar sections and 8-bar sections, and then we've got big rises which drag you through the entire kind of drop. Yeah, so you'll notice there's actually quite a lot of effects, and I'll actually do a lot more than this sometimes in my kind of louder, more full kind of dubstep songs. I'll generally have even more effects than this, just looping constantly. And then yeah, we obviously got cuts from the vocal saying automatic. Automatic. Keep it. Automatic. It's most real, I keep it. Automatic. think with some of these as well, like these here.
It's most real, I keep it.
Yeah, I've got a layer, an octave below, just to thicken it up. I'm sure anyone watching this knows that technique with vocals by now.
It's most real, I keep it.
It's really, really subtle. You can hardly notice it, but it really does just kind of thicken up that lower end.
It's most real, I keep it. Automatic. Keep it. I don't fuck around, Dunny. It's most real, I keep it.
And then for this section here, where the main bass starts to kind of pitch down, it is actually just the exact same mids from the first 16. Like, it's even in the same channel, it doesn't change. It just, I think two things are happening. One is that there's a frequency shifter which is pitching the sound up, or shifting all the frequencies up by 200 hertz. Because without that, it just would sound like this. And the actual pitching down effect is happening with a ring mod. Oh, I've got the hiccups. I just ate breakfast and I ate it way too fast. Yeah, so you can see here, this is the frequency of the ring mod. So for the first, what is that, 16? I don't even know. Yeah, for the first 16, it's completely straight, completely clean. And then the frequency shifter comes on, the ring mod comes on, and even an EQ I automated to come on for that section. Because obviously when you change the timbre like that, or when you change pitch, any kind of EQ that you might have had set before is going to need to change, or basically the sound is going to change a little bit, and you're going to need to make adaptations to that. So this EQ here comes on at that point when the other effects come on, just to boost in the mids a bit, and in the around, I think that's like 2K. Oh, like 3.5, 4K. Just because when the ring mod came on and the frequency shifter came on, I felt like because we had pitched up more, we lost a little bit of mids, a little bit of weight. So I just boosted that back in. But it only stays on for that duration while it's like that. But all of the other effects actually stay exactly the same. The whole riff, the whole kind of like the placement of all of the other glitchy things stays exactly the same. And I feel like that's what makes the track flow so well. Like the track sounds the same throughout, but then you just get this different flavor once the main sound changes. You'll see as well, quite a lot of EQs on here. You'll see as well that what I've done, I'll see a lot of time people cut their mids like way too high. They'll cut their mids up to 3, 4, 5, even 600 hertz. And for me, that's just a big no-no. You just lose so much weight and kind of chunkiness. Like all of your weight and body in your mids is going to come from between about 200 hertz. Like all of the weight in your mids is around kind of 200, 300, 400 hertz. That's kind of this area here, and this is where things sound chunky and fat and warm. Like this whole area here. And I'll see people just cut all of that out, and by doing that, you just sacrifice so much like weight. You do need to really be careful with this area, because these lower frequencies, we do kind of perceive them louder than everything else. So we do need to make sure that they're a bit like, if you look at the, in fact, you know what, save this thought, and I'm going to get back to this on the master when we're looking at span, and what I'm talking about now will be a lot more obvious. But while we are in the mids, yeah, take note of this. I actually don't cut my mids super high. I'll cut them generally around 100 to 150 hertz, depending on the kind of depending on the, if I've got the mids here, and say I bounced my mid sound with a sub in it, and I had a massive harmonic here from my sub, maybe I might just cut a little bit further. I'm basically trying to get rid of any like sub frequencies and harmonics of that, but I don't want to remove any of the actual body of the sound either, so you have to be really careful. And just cut so that, and just think of it so that your sub is going to be filling from 100 hertz and below is going to be purely sub and kick, and from 100 hertz to like 150ish will be a few harmonics from the sub as well, if you've saturated it right or if you've distorted it right. So then your mids should really sit just above that at like 150 and beyond, but be kind of carefully EQ'd so that the very bottom end of the mids doesn't affect the harmonics of the sub. But try and get them as close as you can, and then you don't end up with a really thin sounding track and like hollow. You end up with something really thick and weighty and kind of just powerful throughout. What else do we have? So yeah, you'll notice the mids are just nice, and to be fair, some of them do sound quite high pass, but all the glitchy things actually just shine through. You'll see here they're nice and muddy, like because the sub cuts out, the drums cut out. We've just got a nice chunk of like dirty frequencies before we go back into our clean, nice basses. So yeah, don't be throwing a low cut on your mids group and cutting the whole group up to like 400-500 hertz. Don't do that. My mids group is literally just breathing the whole way. We've even got 100 hertz stuff in here, right from 100, just below 100, all the way up. But it works. I've made it work with the sub. So you'll notice as well, there's basically, if I zoom out of the whole track, you'll basically notice there's never not an effect playing. There's never not a riser playing. If you like constantly, this is the intro, this is the first 16 of the drop, the second 16 of the drop, then the breakdown and the build again. Automatic. Yeah, and then this is the D&B drop, the break, or the bridge, whatever, the drop, bridge. Yeah. You'll notice there's never not a riser playing, or there's never not an effect playing. There's constantly noise happening. And that is kind of like one of the keys to getting a loud, full sounding song. You never want any part where there's very minimal layers playing, especially over the main parts like the drop. You want the background really full. For example, if I just solo my drums and my effects and my vocals, I won't play the mids. You'll see how the track still sounds quite full. Automatic. Keep it. Not full. Full was the wrong word to use, but the track still has kind of life and it has bones. It has like, it's kind of inspiring to listen to. You can almost imagine bass patterns to this. And there's just constantly movement. There's risers taking you through. Automatic. Keep it. Automatic. It's more real, I keep it.
around, Dunny. It's most real. I keep it.
So yeah, I'll do this in all of my tracks. I'll just make sure there's always noise happening. I'll make sure that excuse me. I'll make sure that if I solo my drums and my effects together without the mids playing, I make sure that it doesn't just, because the drums on their own would just sound like this, like. And I say this a lot during my like one-on-one sessions that I do. Like, it makes it easier for you as a writer to fill out the background first, like this, like chuck all of these things in first before you even start trying to put basses in. Because if you don't add all of those sounds and rises and things, you as a listener are going to get bored. You can sit there all day long, like pressing buttons and trying to make patches to this drum beat. But it's just so uninspiring and empty, and it just goes on and on and on. And even you as the producer are a music listener. You still need to enjoy what you're listening to in order to be able to listen to it, if that makes sense. So you need to kind of almost treat yourself as a listener and give yourself these little kind of like subliminal, I guess, like subconscious cues, like all of these background noises and risers and things, like they're gonna give you as the producer even the kind of tension and release experience. It just adds so much more and makes it actually inspiring to write to. So there's a big tip there. Once you've done your little drum beat, add in a bunch of risers and some like looping sound effects really quietly. They can be like -10, -15. Some of these are super quiet, -26. But just have a bunch of rhythmic things there looping constantly, and you'll find that when you actually start adding mids in, then they just sound like they fit so much better. You'll find that, yeah, you'll just find it so much easier. Well, I do anyway. I find it so much easier once I fill out with effects. The writing just happens, like, because the track already, like, you just add in a little bass loop, and in the tracks, like, you add in a bass loop in the sub, and because all those effects are already there, you're like, damn, this sounds like a fucking whole track already. And it just inspires you. You just keep going and keep going. Whereas if you do it the other way around, and you've just been listening to an 8-bar drum loop for 3 hours while trying to make some mids, that gets boring very quickly. And those are the times where you're just going to end up quitting the project and playing fucking GTA. I don't know. So yeah, that's a big tip. Go crazy on your effects first and then start on your like mids and stuff. You just find it so much easier. So I guess that pretty much covers the halftime drop. And to be honest, the D&B drop isn't a whole lot different. Like, the mids are literally like copy pasta. It's literally just the same riff copied over. The drums obviously change. They just speed up to like full-time D&B drums. I'm pretty sure even the effects stay the same. The only real difference is the structure changes. So instead of going from the 16 bars of like, oh wait, let's get it playing. Automatic. So in the halftime drop, we go from 16 bars of like kind of just straight bass, straight through the next 8 bars, and then 16 bars of like altered pitching down. Version of that. And then, but for the D&B drop, I've gone with 16 bars of bass, and instead of going straight into that 16 bars of like altered thing. I've actually gone with more of a something that you hear more in drum and bass rollers, like a kind of like bridge section, I guess you could call it.
I don't fuck around, Dunny. It's most real. I keep it.
And that just really makes it feel like a D&B track. That's kind of, yeah, what you would expect from like a nice dark roller. Just this real nice rolling section. What can we say about this one? I guess kind of similar to the intro. We've got the automatic vocal looping with the ring mod on it. So it's giving it that stutter feel.
Automatic, 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 automatic.
And what else was I going to say? Oh yeah, I added a couple of like, this part's quite interesting, to be honest. I added a couple of little effects. One of these risers sounds like it was one of the basses, or yeah, these two things here sound like when these two things come in with the sub playing, it's like they sound like one of the basses. Pretty cool. It's literally just it's literally just some effect thing. Oh, some really random percussive thing, and then a really short vengeance riser, like sweep. The ducking you can hear is the sidechain. But all together, because I'm not really playing any of the mids at this point, apart from some of the little glitches, these effects kind of take over the pattern of the, like this, that is playing the pattern of the original mid space, like the dong 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 dong. Like the kind of, you know, the flow stays exactly the same. But the sound switch, I thought that was pretty cool. And then I've got just some like looping, atmospheric, just that. And then there was something else. There's some like detuned thing somewhere. Where is it? Oh no, it was these two. So the layer from the start that I was telling you about that sparked like the whole idea. This layer, I just put another one beneath it, put it up one semitone to give it that real horrible detuned feel. And that's just going through the whole kind of rolling section of the D&B drop. Again, just some just all of the sounds are just like sound design cuts. What else do we have? There was a couple of other cool ones I just heard. For some reason I've put some of them in the effects group. I don't know why. I think I was being lazy or just throwing them in really quickly. We've got little snare rolls and stuff. If it actually plays. Like things like this really, really subtle, but things like this just help not have the drums feel so static. I'll always do this with, especially with D&B. Not that I put a lot of it out, but variation at the end of your like 16 bar sections or even 8 bars is really helpful. You know, like little extra snares and rolls and things like that. What's this here? Oh yeah, that's just the kick that comes in to bring the drop back in, to go between the drop and the bridge. And then yeah, so we go from the straight 16 bar section of bass, broken up this time by a kind of dark D&B roller section. This hey thing is literally going from start to finish. Like it's never not going in the D&B section. Like it starts here and it doesn't stop. It literally goes throughout the whole drop. Think of that what you will. I don't really think there's a lot else to say about this song. I think I've covered it in quite some depth. Sub we went over, and kind of sub processing. I guess, oh yeah, master I haven't talked about yet. Let's talk about the master. In fact, let's talk about each group individually as a whole, closed, and then how I go into my master. So let's start with drums. Alright, this is dumb as fuck, so I don't know how I ended up doing this, but this Pro L should be on the very end. I don't know why it wasn't. And why is that? Okay, this is this is quite a bad example of what I wanted to show you. I don't know how this ended up this way. Right, let's just make sure these drums are roughly at 0. Okay, so on each of my groups, I'll make sure that on the end of my chain, I have a Pro L, and for the groups that I want sidechained, which is basically all of them except the vocal and obviously the drums, I'll have a volume shaper. So my Pro L on all of my groups, I'm not using that. I'm not smashing into my Pro L out of any of my groups. You'll see that my drums are only just kind of tickling this red line, which is 0. Well, the snare's actually hitting it quite hard, but what my point is I'm not doing a whole lot of audible, obvious limiting. All I'm doing is just making sure that my signal coming out of my drums group is clipped or limited at 0. And same with all of the others. There's a Pro L on every single one. Nothing's being like pushed hard. The effects, for example, it's not, if there's no input gain, it's just there to kind of safeguard and make sure that no crazy peak is going to hit my master chain and then cause a compressor or something on my master to duck and just kind of ruin the mix. And then for sidechain, I've got I've got a glue compressor after the Pro L2 there. I don't know why I did that. I might have messed this up during like a one-on-one session, just moving things around and saved over it. I don't know. That makes no sense. The Pro L should be, the limiter should be at the end of the chain, and then volume shape after that, because you wouldn't want to limit your side-chained signal. So the volume shape will come last, and then limiter after all the effects. My sidechain kind of curve looks like this on my effects, on my mids. Okay, the mids look more like that, but usually in my dubstep tracks they'll be like that too. Sub, same thing. Volume shaper, same curve. Vocals, I don't sidechain at all. Never sidechain your vocals. They are a human kind of instrument, a human element, and you want them to be natural. And the kind of whole purpose of sidechaining anyway is to make two things that fit in the same frequency space. Sorry, let me start again. The whole point of sidechaining is to make two things that occupy the same frequency space, is to make them fit together, to move one for the other. But a vocal and drums don't clash anyway. So you don't need to be sidechaining one for the other. They can actually both just sit there perfectly fine and sound great. Having completely unsidechained, like completely nice open vocals against a heavily sidechained track actually sounds great. Like having all of the mids and the sub and the effects sidechaining heavily, but then the vocal just sitting there on top just makes it sound even cleaner and even better. So yeah, big tip there. Don't ever sidechain vocals unless it's like a background chant effect or some kind of like, unless you're maybe like sidechaining the reverb tail or something technical like that. As a general whole, like a lead vocal or a chorus or a phrase, like don't sidechain that shit. Just leave it. Yeah, so all of my groups I limit or soft clip. I don't know, whichever. I mean, I alternate between a few things, but there will either be a saturator or a Pro L or a glue compressor at 0. You know, when you do the glue compressor but with 0 range, so it doesn't compress, it just clips. You can do that on all of your groups too, but the point is to make sure nothing comes out of your groups above 0. And then when you hit your master, what am I doing here? So this could be right, it could be right, it could be wrong. I don't give a shit. It just sounds good for me and something I've been doing for a while. So the first thing I do is when I hit my master, I turn everything down by 6 decibels. Okay, no, 3 decibels here, but usually it's 6 in my template. And yeah, I could do that with my groups. I could have all my groups at -6 and come into the master quieter, but I don't want to. I want to have them at 0. The ones that I want to be loudest, like the drums and the mids, I want them at 0 because I like it that way. Fuck you. So, multiband compressor next. This is just the preset. You know, when you drop down the menu and get the multiband compressor there, it's just 20% dry wet of that. And then I've got the time all the way to the side so that I'm not really like sucking up any reverb tails or any stuff like that. It's like just keeping it nice and clean basically. Then I'm glue compressing. I think generally I'll go for around kind of 5 decibels of gain reduction, nothing more than that. So you can see, yeah, the loudest parts are kind of getting up towards 5 decibels of reduction. And then I won't bring that back with the makeup just yet. I'll actually bring that 5-6 decibels back with saturation. Well, I've only done it with 3 decibels here, but instead of using the makeup gain, I'm bringing back some of that volume with saturation. Which is just adding a whole extra bit of, you know, a whole load of more harmonics, a whole lot of extra kind of crunch. And then these EQs, I don't build my song into these EQs. This would have been mastering at the very end when I was using a reference and trying to get it to sound similar. So ignore that EQ there. This utility is just making sure that I've got no sides under 150 hertz after like the saturation and all the compression and the multiband. I'm glue compressing. Okay, this is, I don't use a Pro L on my master. This is my kind of my final gain stage on the master. I've got the glue compressor but with the range set to 0, so there is no compression happening. This is completely still, but I'm just giving it 4 decibels of like extra volume, and then soft clips on. So we're soft clipping quite heavily out of this glue compressor. I've got another utility to make sure again I've got no sides under 150 hertz. And then this limiter, a little trick I realized a little while ago, when you use the saturator or the glue compressor and maybe a couple of other things to soft clip, you never will actually soft clip smack kind of at 0. You'll be like 0.03 or something, like just a little bit below that. So I find that just throwing on this limiter and giving it like a dB of gain and just doing like this, like there's not really any limiting happening. It's the smallest amount. But it's just squeezing that extra tiny little bit of headroom out of the soft clip signal. I mean, it's not even necessary. It's not audible. I've just got OCD. Don't judge me. And then that's it. I've just got spectrum on the very end and span just for monitoring my mix. So when I'm watching my master on span, at the very end of the signal, that was bad. I'm basically looking for a signal that looks something like this. Nice loud sub. Well, let's not use the word loud, but a sub that's balanced with the kind of high end of the track. So we've got a nice kind of balanced reading from left to right. Fundamental of the harmonics of the sub kind of a bit further down. A bit of a dip here where the 150, 200, 300 hertz muddy things are. And then things come back up and get kind of smoothen out a bit. And then the sides, I like to make sure that I've got no sides down here, nothing in the stereo on the sides down here, and that they are like always a few decibels lower than the actual mids themselves. You don't ever want anything louder on the sides than it is in mono. So I'll always watch this bright yellow, bright green thing as well. Just make sure that my sides are there, but they're always quieter than the mono, and there's nothing crazy happening anywhere, no crazy peaks. And then we're good to go. So I think I couldn't really talk any more in depth about this track. I think that pretty much covers it from start to finish. And even my master chain, which is pretty it's pretty much just on my project, on my template all the time, so feel free to go and rip that off. Cool. So yeah, I guess that's going to wrap it up. I hope you've learned maybe a couple of little things from this, or I hope this has inspired you to maybe go away and chop up some audio and have fun yourself. So thank you for watching. This has been my breakdown on Automatic, which was part of my Blunt Force EP on Black Label a couple of weeks ago. Shout to Never Say Die, and shout to everybody watching this. Peace.